Welcome to Group B's discussion on Paradise Lost. I'm the host, Andrew Rader, and Mr. Rader. And here is Mr. Devlin, Mr. Holodeck, Ms. Christian, and Ms. Parr. And Mr. Devlin's going to start us off with the first OQ.
My OQ is that Milton portrays Eve very differently than in the Genesis story. In Book 9, when she is being kind of stubborn with Adam and demands to go off on her own. And again in Book 10, when she tries blaming Adam for not stopping her in Book 9. And I'm just curious what you all thought of her personality that Milton portrays versus in Genesis.
I kind of find her personality similar because she doesn't take the blame in either Genesis or in Paradise Lost. In Genesis, she blames it on the serpent, and in Paradise Lost, she blames it on Adam. So yeah. I found that to be similar.
I think it makes sense that she would blame the serpent, but I don't see how she could possibly blame Adam for it. He just, she was just being so annoying that he was like, okay, just go.
In that case, it's just you don't want to have the blame put on you, so you're going to find any way to put it on something else. And I guess Milton just thought Adam was the best outlet to do that.
I'd have to say that, when I see Genesis, I kind of think that Eve, I didn't really blame Eve as much because it feels like it was all put on the serpent in the Genesis story. But as we look, get to know Eve, especially in the beginning when she's looking at her, when she first sees her own reflection in the pool, then in the pond, she sees her own beauty, and I think she's very into herself, and I almost see her as stupid, I guess, in Milton, because she's so innocent, she doesn't really know what she's doing, and then she gets she is being tricked by the serpent, I don't blame her, but she just so doesn't even understand, I guess, that's just how I see her.
I think for the reason why Milton goes into so much more detail, as far as picking Adam and stuff, is that, I guess compared to Genesis, he's more of an author, he's more of a writer, so he's going to kind of put his own spin on it and make it more of a character. And so I think he took Eve and kind of made her into more of a believable character and picked Adam because that was her husband, and she kind of, obviously the first person that Milton would blame if he was in her case would be his partner, obviously. So I think he kind of took that as putting his own kind of 2 cents in and making it more of a human versus human thing instead of choosing the serpent, which is kind of, I guess, less ideal in the world.
Yeah, I remember also when Eve was telling Adam how he was responsible, he should have held her back from going away from him. And so I think she just put the blame on Adam because she didn't want to take the blame for herself. Yeah.
I mean, that does make sense, how he did let her go, so it is kind of, I guess you could make a case that it's his fault, but he did try, but repeatedly, to make her stay. Her mind was already made up, so still tough to put all the blame on Adam.
I take back what I said about her being stupid.
Yeah. Ignorant.
But ignorant, because also she's kind of witty and planny, because she wants Adam to also eat the fruit, and it is for self-absorbed reasons, so I'd say it's more that ignorant than stupidity. I apologize for that. That wording, she is the creator of women.
I guess we'll go to the next OQ with Mr. Holda.
All right. So my OQ is why were all of the other creations in Eden punished for our wrongdoing? All of the animals and that sort of thing. Unless they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil as well, then why are they being punished for what we did?
I think the most logical reason would be because when God created Adam and Eve, he put the animals underneath them, and I guess they were in power, kind of looked over them, so I feel like they had the big decision to make, so whatever they were going to make, the animals were going to fall in line. So I feel like it was up to them to make the decision, and then the animals were just going to fall in line. And also, God created animals differently than he created humans, so they didn't really have as much reason or as much like good versus evil as humans would have. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because God did put them in charge of all the animals. So it was their job regardless of if they ate the fruit or not. So it makes sense that after they left the garden, like the animals would follow. Yeah, that's what
That makes sense. The only thing like still kind of getting to me is then why were we the ones who made the mistake if we were the ones who already had reason and like thinking already? Like they don't even know what they're doing and they didn't make a mistake like that. Like, they do what they're told and we still couldn't like obey all of the orders we were given.
Yeah, I don't really think there's a clear-cut answer, but we need food. Humans need food to eat, and we need the plants and animals to live our everyday life. And if it was just humans who were kicked out, then what would life be? You know, we would just die, I guess.
Yeah. That also goes like why on page 245, like when the son declares the serpent's punishment, like all snakes have to crawl on their bellies for the rest, and like bite the human in the heel. Is that on this page? I'm trying to find exactly where it is.
Yeah, it's line 175
175.
on page 245.
Oh, 16. Oh yeah. So like, why did God have to also punish the serpents for? Because wasn't it just Satan in the body of him?
Yeah.
So that like goes with the punishing all animals. Because I guess we're all like mammals, but does it really make sense to punish the serpent as well?
I mean, I guess there's a kind of a theme because we're technically punished for what Adam and Eve did. So I think God always just kind of, whoever's like descending like past the main actual people who do the fault, there's obviously a theme that he always picks everyone that comes after him to take the fault too, which I don't know why he does that, but it seems to be a theme.
I think it's also a way for God to show his superiority over everything and everyone.
That's why I don't know. I feel like everything that God's doing is this is like his first test, and that we see in book 3 that he had this planned from the beginning. So why did he's ultimately already decided that he was going to punish all of us.
Right.
I think it's curious. I don't know if there's a really an answer for why, besides the fact that he already had a plan too.
I feel like he wanted, he gave Adam and Eve free will, and we all have free will also. I feel like he wanted to see what they would do with it. Even though he did already have the plan, I feel like he kind of wanted to see how it all would go down. Again, like, as, his first test, like...
I'm confused. Do we, really have free will if God already preset it? That's...
Did they? Yeah. I don't know if they did or not, but it doesn't really seem like it. It just seems like if that was the plan, then they were just going to do it anyway. Because he could make them do pretty much anything if he's, almighty. So either way, they were just screwed from the beginning.
Where do you get this idea, though, that God already has everything sort of, pre-planned? Or, I think because we have free will, but where do you guys get this idea that...
Book
In
3.
book 3 when he's
He foretold what was going to happen.
They
Wow,
went-
when Christ...
And even
Yeah,
knowing
when he's
something
talking
come
about-
back.
Jesus, and he knew that, why did you have to do this kind of thing?
I think he knows the overall plan was going to happen, but he doesn't know the details necessarily.
Yeah.
He knew Adam and Eve were going to fall, but he didn't know exactly how or who was going to.
He
do
couldn't
what.
have planned on Satan coming in and doing what he did.
He just knew that it was going to happen. He didn't know by what means.
Right.
You think that was just Milton placing that earlier in the book to make us believe that God knows what was going to happen, or do you think it's true that God really does have everything pre-planned out?
I think in the words of Milton, that's why I think this. And Genesis, I wouldn't think that he had it pre-planned at all. Maybe not an idea, because
I'm really not willing to. I really want it. It doesn't work.
I don't know if I would say the same thing like just based on the Genesis story.
In Genesis, like, there's never a mention of like the son or like anyone coming
Yeah.
to save us, really. So
Exactly.
I think Milton did put it in here to kind of put it in our heads, but
Yeah, I find it really interesting.
Do you think he thinks that like God was tricking us? Sort of.
The son? Who? Is that Milton?
Milton.
Um,
I don't know if he directly thinks that, but as an author, it definitely seems like an interesting idea to kind of build off of. So that might just be more of like him being an author and trying to make a good story out of it.
it makes it more interesting and like different than Genesis. So he's obviously taking the same all the same events and facts that happen, but he's just kind of putting his own spin on it just to make it, I guess, like more interesting to read than just because like if you read Genesis, you know what's gonna happen. Here, it kind of like makes it where you don't really know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, true.
it makes Genesis seems like just like a summary of this.
Yeah.
And then this is just like
This
has
is,
all
like,
these
way more in-depth.
branches. Yeah.
Mhm. That kind of goes into my OQ.
Yeah,
Actually, curve into why does God create this evil, this sin? So like us being, in the words of Milton, not like Genesis. So why did he have to pre-plan like humans? Like why do they have to sin at all? Why couldn't he have just made them so there was no sin? Why did he have to make that like first sin? Like I guess off of the theme that it was preset.
Right. I think the reason for that is because without sin, it almost seems like Eden would have just been another heaven, more or less. So, without sin, what's even the point of making an earth for people to be on? Just put them up in heaven.
I think he also wanted to differentiate humans from God. Like if we never sinned or we never did anything wrong, it would almost seem like we're on the same level as him. I mean, obviously not because he created mankind, but if we're doing everything perfectly and everything right, I don't see why he would. Yeah, like there's no point of doing that. And I guess he wanted to just kind of differentiate mankind from God and the angels and stuff like that up in heaven.
But what about like the angels compared to like Satan? Because he was in that kingdom and he pretty much sinned too. In those words, like in the heavenly sense. So what makes it different? Like why do you have to do it? It seems like it's unavoidable, I guess.
I think it goes back to free will. God gave even the angels free will, and that's how Satan made the decision to be who he is and to rebel against God. So I wouldn't really say he created sin, but he did give Adam and Eve free will, and they chose to eat the fruit, and that's what led to their fall.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense because like it wasn't even just Satan who rebelled. He had a whole army of other angels with him. So
Yeah.
it would definitely make sense that the angels would have free will as well.
Also, did he? Because I know Satan said in the book that he ate from the same tree.
Yeah.
But did he do that before
Oh.
he left heaven, or was that like as a result? Because now he had reason and choice and good and evil. Did he do that after he ate from the fruit? I don't know if that was in the book or not.
Yeah.
but
I think he lied
Yeah.
when he said that to Eve.
I think
I don't think
Yeah, I
he
don't
came in at
remember.
all.
I think he was just trying to bait her into eating from the tree as well.
So he didn't actually.
Right.
Right. He was just saying whatever he
Yeah.
could to get Eve to eat
Yeah, that makes it, because that made him relatable to Eve. The whole thing that we talked about in class about, okay, well, if I'm in this place, how come the serpent can have it and I can't? You know?
it. And I think it was like more like she was seeing the serpent speak to her, and she was like, oh well, the serpent got this power to be able to speak to humans now. So where can I go?
Right.
If
Yeah.
I eat the fruit?
I think it also was a metaphor for Satan basically saying that he took the risk and sort of committed the sin without telling Eve that he was all good before, but then he sort of took the fruit in a sense, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, he did it without actually eating.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, like the main reason why I don't think he actually ate it too is because it seemed to take Adam and Eve down a level, even though they supposedly gained knowledge of good and evil. And he still seems to be on like the same plane he was beforehand, even though it's in hell rather than heaven now.
Because I mean, I guess Yeah, I mean, God punished him, but not in the same way.
Right.
Where was he like before
Oh,
this story? Like
heaven.
before
I'm assuming heaven.
paradise. Like pardon me.
I mean, yeah, he was in heaven with God until he
Rebel.
rebelled.
And God kicked him
Yeah,
out.
where was he when God kicked him out? Like the time. I don't know if there
I
is
would
a time.
assume hell.
Between-
Didn't I
Doesn't
think it
really
said
say
it
that.
like in book 1, like God created hell specifically.
Okay,
after
so he was
rebel.
in hell. I can
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
So he pretty much gets sent back again.
Like as his punishment in paradise.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, it says on page 11 at the bottom, I mean, it says better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. So
Yeah, then it
he's
says
saying that he was in hell.
true. And then on page 12 it says regained in heaven, or what more lost in hell.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of Satan, I have my OQ is based on this. Do you guys think that Satan is a static character or a dynamic character? Because in Genesis chapter 3, line 1, it says, "Now the serpent was the most cunning of all the animals that the Lord God had made." So this is basically the only description of Satan that we get, and it seems that he's a pretty static character. But what do you guys think from Paradise Lost? What is your take on Satan?
Well, he's definitely got a lot more to him in Milton's description than Genesis. Like, we hear about all of his emotions and everything, like how he's revengeful, just angry, and then regretful at other times. So he definitely seems to have a lot more layers in Paradise Lost than he does in Genesis.
Yeah, I feel like from the book 1, like you see like he like got tossed out of heaven like when he was rebelling and everything, but then you go to like the Garden of Eden when he's looking over at Adam and Eve and he feels like jealous that he wants that happiness, but I just think it's weird that he would have the feeling to like the urge to want to feel happiness, except could he even like I don't know if you would like see that without getting a feeling. Almost, I don't know. I feel like it goes so in depth
Yeah.
that he has like so many layers that would like peel from that. Try and find it.
I wouldn't say he's any less static as he was in Genesis, but like as you guys saying, there's just more description as far as why he was doing things. He plays the same role in Genesis as he does in Paradise Lost. So I think that it's just kind of again Milton just describing Satan, like his motives and why he did things, and kind of just gave more of an interaction between, like, for example, Eve. Like you saw him communicating with him, whispering in her ear in book 4, and then really like tempting her in, I think it was book 9 or book 8. So I think that there's just more description on Milton's part, not necessarily changing the character of Satan.
I agree with that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
I agree with that. With like whispering in her ear, like there's no mention of that in Genesis that I can remember. So it's just it is kind of weird to see him like that, because in Genesis it just kind of is like he is the most evil, and then he just tempts her. But here, it does give more of a backstory, like how he lost his relationship with God, and then again how all those feelings come back to him when he's in paradise.
That's like on line page 210, line around 121, 130 in between there. It says, "Nor hope to be myself less miserable." So he wants to be less miserable, but I don't think that he can even. God put it so I don't think he could be less miserable. So even though he wants revenge, and like he thinks that like this destruction will give like him that satisfaction, well, I don't know if it'll necessarily make him less miserable.
Yeah, I feel like he's destined to be miserable. So
He get out.
yeah, he just got like such a corrupt mind that he thinks that he's going to be doing good by like getting everyone to be evil with him, but in a sense it'll probably just make him more miserable, because he still technically won't be like beating God. God will still be there. God will still have like his mankind, in the end. So, and then also with the Son of Man coming into play, and then he's like really like kind of losing hope because if there's another person that has to take down after Adam and Eve, it's like what am I doing kind of thing. It's like everything's lost for him.
Yeah, it's like a lost hope.
I find it interesting that he's, just talking about being miserable if he's the one that made the choice to begin with. I just find that interesting. But as far as the OQ, I don't think in Paradise Lost that Satan is a dynamic character, although, like you guys said, his thoughts are pretty dynamic. As in Book 4, it says that he's filled with fear, envy, and despair, so he just has all these mixed emotions.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on.
I guess I'll do the last OQ. Mine's kind of related to Satan, but it's his kind of view on why. Well, I guess I'll read it on page 220, 481. It starts. He says, "The woman opportune to all attempts, her husband, for I view far round, not nigh, whose higher intellectual more I shun, and strength of courage haughty, and of limb heroic build." My question is, based on that description of what Satan thinks of Adam, I want to know how, or your thoughts on how Satan knows this about Adam and why he is so fearful of Adam, because I feel like for him, Adam and Eve would kind of be on the same level in his mind. And I want to know why he sees Eve being so much more vulnerable and why Adam is like kind of this almighty character.
I think this goes back to God creating Adam first and Satan knowing so. So having Adam being created first sort of gives that connection between God and Adam, and Eve just came from Adam. She didn't directly come from God. So I think that's why Satan doesn't want to necessarily mess with Adam, because he knows that he was, banned from God and that God is superior over him. So I don't think he wants to go there.
Did Satan know that Adam was created first? I thought the first time he saw them was on like 90 or page 93. And he describes them both kind of the same, that how they're godlike and just kind of majestic and lords of all. Although he does mention that they aren't equal, like they aren't just equal sex-wise. Like Adam seems superior in a way.
Because on line 299 it says, he for God only and she for God in him. So he knows that Adam is directly created from God, if that's what the line is saying.
What was it?
Page 93 on 2. Line 2.
But I guess kind of like a follow-up question, why wouldn't Satan want to take down Adam? Like why? I feel like that's like the head of the so-called monster of mankind. Why wouldn't you take down Adam instead of Eve? Because if you take down Eve, there's still Adam left. So I don't know why he would not go for Adam as a question.
I feel like that. I think as he watched them, he saw their relationship and their marriage. I think he kind of thought it would be way easier for him to tempt Eve over Adam, and then after she had been taken, like it would be a lot easier for him to get to Adam.
That's true. Yeah, I guess he saw Eve as a way to get to Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. At this point, had he seen her like? No, this was afterward. I just feel like goes back to him just being so jealous too. That I feel like Satan can relate more to Adam. Like I feel like he thinks of them kind of on the same caliber of intelligence, because who's higher intellectual more I shun. So he sees that Eve would be less, not even from that she was made from him, but the fact that he just thinks straight up that her intelligence is lower than his. So maybe he thinks that going beneath would just make more sense. I don't know if it's necessarily specifically to destroy Eve, or maybe it is because he's so jealous. He wants Eve. It could be a possibility.
Yeah.
It could also be that he knew he wouldn't have been able to take on Adam. So the only way for him to even get close to coming to Adam is to take out Eve first and hope that somehow she made Adam weak enough where he could.
How would he know that he wouldn't be able to take on Adam?
By looking at him, the way he described him, how he was just strong and just high intelligence. He just knew he wouldn't be able to go after Adam.
Yeah, I also think like Eve and Satan have such a connection as far as their motives, because Eve is portrayed in this book as like pretty jealous of everyone else, like with all their more power and more knowledge than she has, and Satan is like wants that or thinks that he has the ability to get that, and so he attacks Eve because he knows what's in her mind, and that he can like really relate to her and kind of bring her down with him because he knows exactly what she's thinking and why she's thinking it. So I think it was a smart move on his part to just go after someone that he really knew inside and out.
True, because I think her ego is like fueled by like other people. It's like so Satan's like he's like fueled by what he sees, and like he'll gain more from this destruction. So that's all. That's a good point. Just like that. Anyone else? Last minute thoughts?
All right, that'll conclude Group B's discussion on Paradise Lost, and I hope you enjoyed it. How do I do it?